welcome to Inferno 2024. I am Jerry, and this is, of course, one of those interesting midnight or past midnight interviews we have here. We have something special from the land of Sean Connery, late legendary actor and all that stuff. This is Saor. Sorry, my phone is actually beeping. Let's put it away. Sir, please state your name and status. Why on earth are you here with me?
Well, I don't know the answer to that, but I'm Andy, and I'm the main songwriter, musician for Saor from Scotland, and I'm with this guy because he's a legend, obviously.
A good joke to start with. Now, talking about the name, let's get that tackled first away. Whenever a band has a name that is not, explaining itself automatically, I want to understand the meaning. What's the meaning of the name?
It means free in Gaelic, in Scottish Gaelic and Irish Gaelic. I actually just liked the word, and I liked the way it looked on paper. So that was the main reason I chose that. But yeah, it can be like Free Scotland. It was a political slogan for Scottish independence movement, Free Scotland. So that's kind of where I've seen it. And I just liked the meaning free, but I have some Gaelic speakers that tell me that it's kind of a strange name in the vocabulary.
but it's very effective. 4 words, and it's kind of easy to remember rather than some 5-word syllables and names.
Basically, I thought that looks quite cool. That was the reason.
That's almost like a big fuck off to all those metalcore band names, which have like 5 different names, words which don't really make sense. Yeah. Coming back to the word topic, I promise I tried to intentionally forget this question. But now that you mentioned the word free and Free Scotland, everybody's now thinking of Braveheart and Freeeeedom.
I know.
How annoyed or inspired you are by the movie and the themes of...
Do you know what? I actually really like the movie. It's kind of like Robin Hood for Scotland. It's like a mythological thing. I know the guy existed, and probably there's going to be a more accurate film in the future, hopefully. But I actually really like the film.
At least it brought a lot of like people putting on the whole name and the basic story on the map and all.
Yeah, definitely. But there was like a scene in it. It was like the Battle of Stirling Bridge, and they didn't have a bridge in it. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty fucking historically inaccurate, but it's a good film. I enjoy it. And I was a little boy when it came out, so it's quite nostalgic as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. Now, talking about that, because you mentioned your Gaelic name, and of course Scotland has a very, very powerful, very strong history, which is filled with battles and, of course, invaded. I actually had this conversation back in 2019 when it was in Glasgow. Right. When people go to bars and sometimes trying to get your piss out, and then it's like somebody's staring at the back of me. Okay, I had to, make the things more relaxed. There was a big Scottish guy behind me, and I was like, what's in common with Finland and Scotland?
Drinking.
Apart from that, I was like, we were both invaded by assholes. Then the whole toilet bursted into weird laughter, and in story short. My point here is that this very, very indeed a historical nation with all these battles and conquering lands and all that stuff, and of course it must be really, really important to you because you have these themes and in the band and of course in the name. So care to elaborate how Saor was born into this kind of a band it is?
I think when I was younger, I was listening to a lot of Norwegian bands. We're in Norway, obviously, and there was a lot of bands that had their local folk traditions, folklore, history, and they mixed it with metal. And I don't think there was a lot of Scottish or UK bands doing that. So that's where my kind of inspiration came from. I thought we have a really interesting history, a really bloody history. We've got beautiful landscapes. There's countless things you could make lyrics about, you know, from like the Picts to William Wallace to, you know, modern day. So yeah, I just thought it would be cool to do something. You know, I loved extreme metal when I was younger, and I thought it would be good to mix Scottish folk elements and Scottish history with metal, and I didn't know any bands doing that at the time, so that's where my main inspiration for starting Saor came from. So yeah.
I mean, that's a kind of a very, very logical step to take,
Yeah.
especially when you consider that, okay, from Ireland there's Primordial,
Yeah.
from Finland there are bands like
Yeah.
doing about Finnish nature, and of course lots of Norwegian bands and Swedish bands and German bands.
Yeah.
And so I guess Scotland had it like, we need one.
I honestly, growing up, you know, the metal scene was really like small, and I didn't know many people in the scene, and there wasn't many bands either. To my knowledge, maybe there was some underground band that I don't know about, but there wasn't many bands talking about Scottish history and, you know, Scottish heritage and mixing the folk elements with the metal. So yeah, that was a big influence, you know, the Norwegian bands, especially like bands like, you know, Vindir.
That came to my mind
like
as well.
they're like one of my favourite bands from Norway, and I love how they mixed the folk elements, but it's not cheesy. You know, it's not cheesy, it's not corny, it's really authentic, and it's really, you know, I don't know, it's just real. And, you know, there's some folk metal bands that are really corny, and
Well,
like,
yes.
you know, bagpipes.
It tends to go kind of a LARPing phase.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, that's
where you
what I
start
mean,
wearing
yeah.
hobbit ears and all.
So that's more where I was coming from, like the more authentic bands, like them, who mixed the atmospheric black metal. They added little bits of folk in it. So that's, you know, they were a big influence. And to be honest, the more, you know, Saor, the more albums I made, the more folk music I put into the albums. But that was kind of like just a natural progression from my side. But early on, it was, you know, Vindir, and it wasn't, you know, like cheesy folk metal bands that influenced me. Yeah.
Is it fair to call Saor a national romantic band in that sense?
Maybe. Yeah, there is like a huge part of romanticism in it. You know, like I have lyrics about, you know, there's a lot of old poems that I used in the earlier albums, and they were from like the 1700s, 1800s, and they were kind of, you know, national romantic, as you would say. Like it's about the past and romanticising it. So yeah, probably a good description actually.
No, the reason is this, because it is something that, in my opinion, it's very, very fascinating when we delve into the real history instead of doing Lord of the Rings stories and all that stuff. And this is sometimes very, very much people confusing it with some kind of a patriotic acts to a level of getting very political about it. And of course, some bands and some countries get way more like, get away with it. Whereas some other countries are like, nope, you cannot do that. There's a difference in how some countries are even allowed to be national. I don't know. I don't even pretend to know how it in Scotland. So
I think in Scotland it's different because it seems to be some sort of protest against the Westminster London establishment. You know, I think when I started the band, I was very like passionately Scottish independence kind of guy. As I've got older, I've realised it's a bit more complicated and there's a bit more nuance involved, and I don't know. I don't know what I would do if there was another, you know, referendum on the independence question. I really don't know. My heart says yes. My head says I have to think about this. But I understand from like the position that there's this elite in London that, you know, the Tories and Labour and all these political parties that we don't vote for in Scotland, and somehow they overrule our parliament, which is really annoying. So yeah, but as I said, I used to be a lot more political in that sense, you know, Scottish nationalism when I was younger. But as I grow older, I get you know, I just don't care.
Yeah, the reason why I wanted to pick your brain about it is that I've noticed, and as well as you, that a lot of, for example, Norwegian bands are like able to put their Norwegian flags on everywhere in the black metal scene. Even like Talk, you could like you know like take the whole. You know, the flag as a cloak, and everybody's like, yeah, that's beautiful.
Even England, I've noticed if anyone English shows any sense of nationalism, it's seen as a negative thing.
Yeah, that's the same thing as in Finland, and as in sports. I mean, if you would put, say, a Finnish flag on the background as a backdrop at a gig, even if it's like inverted cross kind of thing, people would be saying like, okay, now they're advocating some kind of a national socialism. But in other countries, like, go for it. We don't care.
I think it's the whole. Apparently, we are like an oppressed nation. You know, that's not entirely true. Maybe in the past, but I think it's seen as like a civil nationalism. It's just all about, you know. The country escaping the evil British, you know, United Kingdom. So I think there's a bit of leeway there, whereas some other countries it's a bit more controversial due to their history, I guess. But I just believe that people should be able to believe what the hell they want, and you know, it's up to them.
Ask Americans how much they wave their flag. Exactly. No, but whenever you see an American, they're always like, "Oh, okay, let's start singing the national anthem and all."
I've been to America, so I know what you mean. they're very like patriotic.
Yes, and every
well, they're either very patriotic or very anti-patriotic.
Yes, that's kind of a very, very divided.
It's a very divided place.
Now, talking about your music, before we actually started the conversation today, when we were exchanging messages. We talked about like how people label Saor's music. Like some, like you said, some people call it like atmospheric black metal. Some call it more like just melodic black metal or melodic folk black. And there are lots of different ways to describe the music, and some of them are accurate or one way or another. And when I was today listening to seeing on stage and all that stuff, and then comparing to the album I know the best, the latest one, then I was like, okay, there are clear like changes and differences between the songs and how they are portrayed. Like some are certainly more folkier, especially when the flute comes in and all the stuff. And then you mentioned like there are parts which are definitely more on the jazzy side of things. And I started like, this is definitely something like, there are lots of different ways like to describe it based on what album, what songs we're talking about. So how would you, if you got like a short sales pitch, like the band is what exactly?
I call it Caledonian metal, which just means Scottish metal. Basically, I genuinely don't know how to describe the music, because the earlier albums were definitely atmospheric black metal. Just, you could just pin that label on the older stuff. As it progressed, as I said, there was a bit more folk elements in it. Then, I did Forgotten Past in 2019, which had, I want to say, some more I hate saying post whatever, but post metal rock influences in it. A bit more, how would I say?
To kind of a slow building,
uplifting maybe, more uplifting elements in it, and then Origins is quite pagan folk heavy, on that side. So it's really hard to describe, but I just say Caledonian metal because I think it sounds cool, but it just means Scottish metal. You know what you're getting in for. You know what you're in for when
but then again, I think it's a good way, because, for example, if somebody would drop the line and say this is Teutonic black metal, okay, I know now they're talking about a certain kind of a German black metal. So it's sometimes better to use the less used geographic or whatever cultural terms in order.
I don't like using black metal in general, because it's weird with us, because there's a lot of guys that are really into like true black metal and like the band, and then there's people that don't, and it's weird, because I would never say to like, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I wouldn't say to like this true cult guy, come and see my band, because I don't know if they would really enjoy the melodic folk aspect of it, but some people are a bit more open-minded to that style of music. So I don't like using black metal for the band. I understand that you know, today at the festival we were at, there's pure black metal bands, and we sound nothing like them. You know, we're very melodic heavy. We're very much about the atmosphere. That's the only thing I care about in every albums. Does it have a good atmosphere? Does it have the atmosphere that I'm going for? Everything else around it's, you know, I don't go into an album and go, I'm going to make a black metal album. I just pick up a guitar. Whatever happens, happens, and there it is. So
that is also emphasized by your live look. I mean, of course, when you go for a rather traditional second wave black metal, you of course often see corpse paints, spikes, leather jackets with studs, and the kind of a classic imagery. And there you are with more like normal t-shirts on, like not even trying to like mirror that classic. So is this like purely intentional, like drawing the line between those that are so-called pure blood black metal and the kind of yours, which is I guess more like this pagan metal thing?
I always preferred bands that were about the music rather than the theatrics and the stage show and the clothing and the makeup.
I think I'm getting a phone call from Demon Border right now.
No, obviously they're awesome, like for what they are. Like I'm not a huge fan, but the stage show, etc., is amazing. And but there are bands that I enjoy watching. I just know for me, like, as I said, I was really into like the old 90s black metal, corpse paint, you name it. And then I kind of grew into liking bands like, you know, growing up Agaloch or, you know, the old Alcest albums and stuff. And it was like, they're kind of moving away from that, and they're incorporating different folk and post-rock elements, and they're just normal guys. And then when I see a band, I just like to enjoy the music rather than the whole stage show. That's my personal opinion. I know people love a big stage show, fire and whatever, but I'm just all about, if we can prove we're good musicians, we can play good music, that's all that matters. And you know, the lighting show is very important for me as well. I don't know what you thought of the lighting show today, but we had Anka doing the lights today, and she's really good at creating the atmosphere. It's all about atmosphere, as I said, in the music as well. It's all about atmosphere on stage, and you know, I'm not into all the props and makeup and all that kind of shit.
So it's not definitely first.
For me. Yeah, music 100% first, always over everything else, and that's just from my perspective. And I completely understand bands that, you know, wear corpse paint and all that kind of shit. It is what it is, and I'm not shitting on that. It's just my personal preference. I think most of the bands I like don't really do a big stage show. It's all about, you know, the music and, you know, playing it good and creating a good atmosphere live for me.
So people who are now expecting Saor to look like something like Rammstein are going to be...
You never know. If the budget gets bigger, you know.
Suddenly the coach I turn and all. Now, serious note. Why did you decide to do things on your own rather than going like full-blown band with where every member is more or less equal, like jamming about? Why go like me and my vision first, and the others are more like mercenaries?
I was in bands before, even just like local bands in high school and stuff, and I just enjoyed writing music. And when I involved other people, then complications were arising. You know, like people would come in and say, "Here's my riff," and I'd be like, "That's pretty shit." And then someone else would say, "I like it, I hate it, I like it." And I was like, you know, fuck this. I'm just going to do my own thing. I know my vision. I know what I want to do. And most of the bands, you know, from like black metal, if we're talking about black metal, most of the bands I like are like one-man or two-man bands anyway, you know. You've got like, you know, as we said, Vindir at the start, it was just Valfar, he was just the one guy. And then it was like, obviously, growing up listening to the old school bands, you know, you had Darkthrone, the two guys, you had Burzum, one guy. So like, I don't know, I always thought that was something really cool that these guys had their vision and there was no other members in the band kind of diluting what their vision was, and that's why they wrote classic albums and amazing albums. But mainly just because I just don't like people, to be honest. I don't like having to like discuss, is that drum beat good? I can just go, I'm going to write a fucking drum beat and that's it. and I can say to our drummer, you can add fills and stuff, but this is the structure of the song. I've written it, and yeah, that's the way I like doing things.
Now, talking about the style once again, why did you choose to go with the more, well, black metallic sound, even if you wouldn't call it black metal? Like, why not do, I don't know, classic heavy metal or some epic doom or something that, or even that post metal, which are not that far away once again, but your vocals, of course, are very black metallic.
As I said, it's always been a huge like influence for me. Like, you know, growing up, I started off listening to like your mainstream bands, like Iron Maiden, Metallica, blah blah blah, and then, you know, at high school, I had a friend who used to like give me some CDs to listen to, and I think like my first introduction to like more extreme metal was like Cradle of Filth or Dimmu Borgir or something, and he's like, you need to check this out, Dark Throne, and I listened to it, and I listened to like A Blaze in the Northern Sky, and I was like, what the fuck is this? The first time, like I didn't know if I liked it, I hated it, whatever. It took me a couple of times to listen to it, and then something happens in your brain, and you're like, whoa, I have to hear more of this shit. So then I went down, you know, the rabbit hole of getting all these underground bands and going to distros, and, you know, used to send money in the mail and shit, like, and you get all these CDs from random bands. So it was a huge like influence for me, black metal. But as I've gotten older, I don't listen to it as much. Like, I don't really listen to any new bands, and it's not out of any sort of like, I'm not trying to be a dick or anything like that about it. I just don't have time. But like the old, you know, the 90s, early 2000s kind of shit, like that's really influential to me. So I suppose the sound always follows me around. Like when I'm writing songs, it's always there. It's ingrained in my mind now, you know. I can't help but do stuff in a black metal style sometimes. Yeah.
So how about your live members then? What kind of process it is to become a Saor member, at least in terms of live?
Well, there's zero pros, like, because they have to spend time with me. So, you know, the guys in the band, one of the guitarists, Martin, he's like a really good friend of mine. So it's really cool to be able to travel and play cool festivals with him, and you know, we're both dads and we've got a lot in common. So yeah, and we've got Ella doing the whistles and stuff. She just brings a whole new dimension to the live show. It took a long time to find the right people to do this, but you know, the guys that are doing it now are just professionals. They're just phenomenal people, and I got on with them really well, and you know, that's that, I suppose, you know.
Now, songwriting seems to be a big passion for you, but you also seem to like these live shows. So,
I don't know.
so okay, maybe then this is an easy question. Can't point it at your head. What would be the more important, playing the good shows or making more songs?
Making music. Always making music. Like, that's my passion. That's my thing. Like, I love creating music. I love writing. I like recording. Live's fun, but it's definitely not the most important thing for me. And actually, when I started playing live, I found it really stressful and really, I just didn't really like it. And it took a lot of years to find the right people in the band. And then, you know, we've got sound guys now, and it's quite a professional setup, but it took a long time to get to that. I mean, there was a brief period where I didn't play live because I said, fuck this, I just can't be bothered flying out to some country, and you've got a local guy that doesn't give a shit about the band and makes you sound shit, and then you get all paranoid and like depressed about it because you've put a lot of effort into rehearsing, and you think it sounds shit. So yeah, there was a brief period where I was like, yeah, fuck this, I don't want to play live anymore. But actually, some of the guys that were in the band were like, yeah, we're getting all these offers, let's play live again. I'm like, okay. And then I'm kind of used to it now. But today Inferno, like, you know, I love playing shows like that. You know, it's a privilege, you know, to be able to come here. And you know, I was talking to you earlier about, you know, going to Mexico and going to the US, and I never thought in a million years when I was younger, writing the first album Roots, that I would be doing that. So it's been awesome experiences, playing live, but it's definitely not the top of the list. Songwriting, always, and during COVID, we didn't get to play live, so I got to write more music, and I was happy with that.
Yes, some bands have mentioned it was like in a way, kind of a golden era that you didn't even have to go out. There was you didn't have to make up excuses like, how I'm not leaving home. I'm just writing music and
we're not even
chilling.
like full-time touring bands. We're like part-time. I don't know if you would say that, but we're kind of like part-time touring band. We do like weekends. We play festivals. But we've all got like normal lives and kids and jobs, and I've done the whole tour bus thing, and it's really not for me. I just find it's extremely tiring for a start. Kudos to the bands that do that, because it's really fucking tough. You have to be mentally and physically strong to do it.
Yes.
Because if you're playing 30, 40 shows in a row, it's hard work to always be in the zone, always put on a good performance. I mean, one band that comes to mind that I think are, the professionals of this, like Rotten Christ. Like, I think those guys are always on the road, and they always put on a really good performance every fucking night they play. And, there's loads of other bands, but you need to be very dedicated to it.
Yeah.
And I'm not. So I'm quite happy doing my flying out to Inferno and going home the next day.
I get it. What kind of bands, you mentioned that you don't have much time to listen to new bands, but what kind of bands still inspire you the most when you're like looking for some kind of inspiration or ideas? Like what makes you tick in that sense?
Well, we spoke about Vindir there. Like, obviously the old albums with them are amazing. I'm a huge Druka fan from Ukraine. I think Roman's one of the best black metal songwriters ever. You know the Ukrainian band Druka?
Of course.
Like Autumn Aurora and Blood in Our Wells and that, just amazing albums.
Again, now that you mentioned that, I can now actually figure out the similarities with Druka and Saor. I mean, definitely in the broader sense, same box. It's the cultural differences and inspirations.
Just amazing band and amazing person, actually. I actually got to meet him in Ukraine, Roman, and he's such a nice guy, and he was a big fan of Saor, which I was like, whoa, that's crazy. I love your. So that's one band that is in the God tier box for me.
I understand.
And obviously Vindir, and apart from that, there might be a few bands I can't really think about, but it's weird. Like with Druka, they've got the Ukrainian thing as well, and obviously with what's going on now with Russia, there's quite a historical tie there. When I'm singing about the old English invasions and all that. I mean, it's not quite we're not getting invaded by England now, but
still, I mean, there's a similarities.
Historical context somewhere along the lines. But yeah, that's definitely one of my favourite bands. I actually really love Alcest, the older Alcest stuff, and Nij was on Forgotten Paths. He did vocals on that, so that's a band that I think got out of black metal and did something different, but still had a little bit of black metal influence in it. So yeah, that's another band that I'm a huge fan of. But otherwise I just listen to Kate Bush.
Any favorite lyrics by Saor? Something that really make you feel proud, that I'm so fucking proud that I have these or that sets of lyrics?
Oh fuck! Now I don't even remember my fucking lyrics when I'm playing. I like Tears of a Nation, but I don't write these. These are just old poems. But that's about fallen martyrs for Scotland, and I really like the lyrics in it. I can't actually remember half them off the top of my head, but that's probably my favourite lyrics. You can find it in Metal Archives if you look. I can't remember off the top of my head. I need a guitar in my hand. to remember. But that's probably my favourite, yeah.
All right. Now we're about to wrap things up so that we don't end up talking here
Oh,
for
no.
hours
We
and
could
all.
be sitting here forever.
Yeah. But we have to save something for part 2 in history. So let's do a little bit of foreseeing. What will be the road like for Saor in, say, next couple of years, maybe 5 years or so? Because we will come back to that. Then.
Yeah. Oh, fuck, I don't know, man. Like we've got a new album, basically 80% finished, so I have to do some vocals for that, and it has to be mixed and mastered, etc. So we've got a new album coming out, hopefully some more shows next year, and I just take every year as it comes. I'm not, I don't look too far in the future. I just let things naturally flow and hope the band grows and succeeds, and yeah. No other plans, really.
All right.
Yeah.
So we'll let it in the fog of war and see how things unfold.
We'll see. Yeah, maybe next year I'll just pack it all in and get a normal job.
Well, we'll see about that. All right. I hope you people find some of these topics interesting, and you will have now the will and interest to check out the music of Saor. And of course, if you get the chance, go see them live. I can pretty much guarantee that if you like the music, you will also enjoy them live. Thank you, Andy, for this interesting conversation.
Appreciate
now, off you go, people. This is Inferno 2024. This is Rauta. This is Andy, Saor, and now off you go. Enjoy some Saor and stay metal. Thank you.
Perfect.
Like I said, we could have been talking for hours.
Yeah, we could be talking for hours.
Yeah, but that's the...
You caught me off guard. Who's your favourite band? Don't listen to music.